day is done and the kids are in bed, so it's time for a brew with Lucy. Fanny, good day.
Hello.
Hello. Oh yeah, any interview that starts with just me dancing like an octopus trying to put on a jumper, life is good. Like, oh, it's so graceful. Oh, well,
No one has ever called me graceful. That is something I am not. But thanks.
oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Well, it's just awesome to be able to talk to you today and introduce you, because you just basically, when we got matched in our amazing Team One, I went away and I did my research, and my God, you are one feisty, fierce, funny, talented woman, and just like, wow, the opportunity to connect with you is mint. So yeah, thank you for joining me.
Right back at you.
Oh, Fanny thinks I'm
All the love. Let's love. Lots of love. Just going back and forth.
I wanted to talk to you about your approach to songwriting, because you've written some amazingly sort of like funny and light songs, and songs about, you know, just kind of everyday moments, right down to sort of super powerful songs about grief and loss, and you know, you've got the whole gamut. So I wanted to talk to you about, you know, what inspires you to write a song.
Such a big question, isn't it? I try to be the first, like, kind of an overarching thing for me is I just like have to be as honest as possible, like push myself honest, like uncomfortable honest, which is why I have a song called Peed in the Pool. But also I don't know, I'm fairly I like to let songs often just come along. Like I like to try and just like often I'll just start playing and I'll write the whole song and then I'll realize what it's about after. I don't usually go into a song thinking I'm going to write a song about this. Actually, very rarely do I think that. Maybe I'll have like a line that I've grabbed somewhere that I've heard, I've written down, or a word, and maybe a song will come from that. But I really try and get into that, you know, kind of flow process and just see what happens on the breeze, just trying to grab it and then roll with it.
Oh, that sounds awesome. And yeah, you know, because so often it's about inspiration sort of like just springing up once you've picked up your guitar, right? Or once you've just started singing and the words start flowing. So that's really, really cool to hear. I love what you said about like trying to capture raw honesty, because that comes across so powerfully in your music. You really feel like you know, like you're sharing secrets with us, but you're sharing secrets with all of us. You know, that's it sounds like that's kind of like a core part of like the integrity of your offering as an artist.
Yeah, there's literally no line. Like, so Fanny is a nickname I was given at uni, and it became like a nickname, and it was when I started kind of playing more live. And so, and my other name, my real name, my mum gave me is Edwina. So the difference between like the Fanny life and Edwina and all of the in between, there's just nothing. I am exactly as I put out, and maybe that's too much sometimes. I am private about some things, but I am very there's no lies there.
No, it's awesome. And I don't think people can be too much. Like you say, of course there'll be parts of your life that are private, but you know, it is important that the parts that you offer are as honest and true as possible. And that's really cool to hear about your nickname. On Wikipedia, I saw your name was Edwina. I was like, oh, I hope we get to hear the story of how she became Fanny Lumsden. So cool.
Well, it was just because I loved the Enid Blyton books, The Faraway Tree, and I was collecting them at uni, and just like, you know, uni kind of friends just like, well, started calling me, my middle name's Margaret, so they'd be like, Edwina Margaret Fanny Lumsden, and like it was just a joke, and then people just started calling me Fanny Lumsden, and then like even my husband's grandma calls me Fanny, so like it did become a nickname, but a lot of people who knew me before that were like, that's not a name. And I'm like, Whatever, babe.
Yeah, whatever. The universe has gifted me the name Fanny, and I'm rolling with it.
And it will sell me a lot of t-shirts, so I'm gonna go with it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So as part of Global Music Match, of course, we're matched with artists from all over the world, and I'm particularly interested in how our environments and our culture affect who we are as writers. I mean, you live in the Tooma Valley. You moved there in 2015, right? Yeah. And
Yes.
yeah, I just want to know about how that move and living in such a rural place and absorbing kind of like such an epically beautiful area that people should completely Google or just watch your documentary. Yeah, tell me about how that affects you as an artist.
I am hugely affected by where I am and like this, like the natural environment that I'm in, and it kind of is reflected across my different records. So my first record is very much about where I grew up, which is like in Western New South Wales, and you know, hometown. It was like red dirt country, it's kind of west, but very much hometown. The second album, I was traveling around in a caravan the whole time with my husband all around Australia, and it's a very traveling based record, red dirt again, like really like outback Australian Australiana vibes. And then this last record I wrote here in the Tooma Valley. So it's in our mountains, which, you know, they're Australian, so they're not that big, but they still have snow on them. So we live, it's about 6 hours to drive to Sydney and 6 hours to drive to Melbourne. And it's pretty remote, but we tour so much regionally that it kind of made sense for us, and my family's here. And yeah, I wrote the record after having gone through, like, we lost my partner's mother to cancer, and a few months later I had a baby, and he was very close with her, and he's, you know, it was just it was a time that I felt emotions really deeply, kind of for the first time in my life, I think. And so I just decided to, and then I was here in this valley, which is like got insane light every day. It's so beautiful. And I was just so inspired by the beauty and the hope that came with that environment. And I wanted to tell everyone about it. And so that came out in the songs.
Well, just what you've told us about your experience of love and loss so closely, and at the time that you guys were settling and making your life in Tooma, that is absolutely reflected in Fallow. It's just such a powerful album. I'm not afraid to admit, had a little cry on first listen. There are some songs there that just like you've already said, you know, you've offered raw honesty, and people who have experienced love and loss will have no problem you know, seeing themselves and their families and their experiences reflected back at them. That's, you know, often the power of an album. And Fallow's already been like wildly successful over in Oz. I see that you've been charting and getting awards, and that's really exciting. What's next for Fallow? What's happening?
So we've just this week actually released a little documentary that we made about the past, 18 months of making Fallow. It was a pretty tumultuous time. We started beautifully though. We made the record in a stone hut here on the property, and my producer from Sydney came down, and one of my players, and we stayed here for 2 weeks, and we just went in, and it was such an epic way to make a record. I loved it so much. Just walking down there, I really wanted to capture the vibe and the spirit of the valley, and I couldn't think of a better way to do that than to get to make it there, and to get my producer, who's wildly creative, to be in that feeling with me. So that was awesome. So we launched it here in the valley, and we did this, was meant to be a little launch, but it just kept growing, and people just kept buying tickets, and we donated all the money to the Bushfire Recovery Fund for the local one. And then COVID happened the day it came out. Yeah, but to answer your question, because I haven't done that yet, and I said I was going to answer them super succinctly, and I am not. Sorry. Fallow. We put the documentary out this week, so we're kind of just sharing, the journey of that. We've got a single out at the moment, but called Fierce, and a clip, but we're about to do our next single and make a new video for that, as well as a bunch of other things around it. And we have a tour, hopefully happening in November, socially distanced, and yeah, goddamn, come on, if we can hopefully we're going to pull it off. We're like working with different kind of ways to make some live shows work, like everyone is all around the globe.
Well, I'm excited that it will live on and rise out of COVID and
Yes.
and
Yes.
be able to share it live, because so I've seen some footage of you playing live, you and your band. It just looks like such a fun experience. You're just laying it all out there, boogieing away. It's just wicked. So you know, I'm really interested as an artist. A lot of people, I don't know, I feel like calling yourself a performer or an entertainer to some people seems in bad taste, but actually you know, because how can you be an artist?
I get it.
But you know, of course, actually, when people come and spend time with you, choose to spend their money and their time in an evening with you, to me, it's so important that they go away feeling like they saw a show. You know, even if that show made them cry and laugh and everything in between. So I feel like you do that. Tell me about your thing.
Yeah, I am super passionate about that. I think like music should never be it should always be accessible to everyone, and it should be an experience. And I think combination of just the way that I am and the way that I want to present everything, and the way that I have developed as an artist through not being known but putting on all these shows in regional areas, which are just not areas that people go see live music. Often people will be like, this is the first gig I've ever been to, and you're putting songs they don't know in front of them. So like it's a combination of that, and then also just like me wanting to express myself this way. I am so passionate about like the bringing songs that have that artistic like integrity to them to people in an entertaining way. Like entertaining isn't a dirty word. I think it's great. I think it's so fun. And I love watching people's faces when they're like, and they're just involved, and they go away and they're like, wow, like that is so fun to me. And if I'm having a good time as well, like, you know, just riding that wave with the crowd. Like we have totem tennis competitions, which is like swing ball. I don't know if you have that.
Okay, yeah.
It's like a stick with a string on it with a tennis ball on the end.
Yeah, we have swing ball in the UK. We know it well.
Yeah. Good. I know to call it swing ball in. So we have it called a totem tennis, which is like, and we have a competition at the front of the stage with like people in the audience, and then we have all sorts of stuff. And but then we'll have really quiet moments where it's just like us all singing a cappella in harmony with one guitar. So I love the idea of people walking in and forgetting everything in their lives and having an experience.
That's awesome. And it sounds like, you know, it's mutually beneficial, isn't it? I talked to Suava about this in his interview last week. You know, you're giving to the audience and them giving back to you. It's such a powerful thing. Tell me your best. Well, I asked Suava this last week. I said, what's your best gig moment? He essentially told me his most embarrassing gig moment. So you can tell me both or either. It's up to you.
Would take, I think, like I've wet my pants on stage as well as like leaked because you know, breastfeeding, all these things, and I'm not overly embarrassed about it. I just think they're funny. Mostly. I think there was a gig that we did. So when we went on tour straight after I had Wally, stupid idea, Walter, like 3 weeks later with my brother plays with us as well. So it was like my husband and myself and my brother and our newborn, collective 3-parent family and the newborn and a tiny caravan. And we like going, and we did a tour called Under Our Hills Hoist where we played in people's backyards, like all over Australia. And like backyards or paddocks or whatever, like we just kind of curated this. It was a kind of a whatever space you want to do, and we like had a certain way to do it. Anyway, we were the most amazing location. It was on the other side of the Blue Mountains kind of, and it had this huge escarpment, like it was just magnificent behind us. And the caravan is like set up, and it's a pretty cute old retro van. And so it's set up there, and they're all beautifully spaced, and it was all these lovely people. And so he was probably like, I don't know, a couple of months old at this point, like we're a bit through the tour, and it was leaking everywhere, like just like my top is wet. And I'm like, sorry, dudes. Like, and then my baby, he's screaming. And eventually the lady who's holding it, because I just would give him to strangers. Like I'd arrive at the gig and be like, you look like you have experience with children. Do you want to hold him? And usually he'd fall asleep, but this time he just screamed. She like comes up, she's like, sorry, I think you're gonna have to feed him. And so I was like, okay, guys, just give him in. And it was like, I don't know how big he was, but they're lovely. And so I just like step off to the side. And meanwhile, my husband, Dan, told a 12-minute joke with no punchline. 12 minutes. The poor audience is sitting there like, anyway, it was
though, Dan, just stepping in to be entertainment while you were needing to, you know, feed your lovely baby.
Yeah, I think the unsung hero of literally Fanny Lumsden. Like most people who know us just know that Fanny Lumsden actually just translates to Dan Freeman.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I mean, like, it would have been.
No, I do.
You left the stage and there was nothing, or you might have been more stressed. The fact you knew Dan could stand there and tell a story meant you could just relax enough to nurse your baby. Because when you're nursing a baby and you're stressed, they know they take so much longer to have their feed. And
you're like, hurry up!
I've done it.
There was a lot of those.
Yeah, a lot of those. Yeah. Well,
actually, I'm gonna just really quickly tell you this, but the other one that was really funny, most hilarious gig. I was 7.5 months pregnant. It was on the same tour, but earlier in the year before I had the baby, and obviously, and we rocked up to this place, and I hadn't really read the email right, but it was definitely like, it was at, you know, like the house concert tour kind of we were doing, and we drove up, and the host like bounded down to me completely nude, and I was like, oh, all right. And then it was a naturalist's gig, and we played to like, there was like, I don't know, like 60 or 70 like entirely nude people, just like, and they're like, oh, you're gonna partake? And I was like, oh no, 7.5 months, like preg, you don't need to say that, like. And I'm standing on stage anyway, but it ended up being very funny. Like everyone was hilarious. We just cracked jokes immediately. Like we were just like, we've got to break the ice, and just like we cracked jokes constantly through the whole thing, and they thought it was so funny. And it ended up being great. But tell you what, merch was so awkward, because the height of a merch table, and you're like, hey, you want a Fanny t-shirt, do you? Oh, and they played totem tennis. Like, so they played swing ball. They insisted. And it was just like epic experience. They're lovely people. The hosts are amazing. Like, and if I go back, maybe I would partake next time, but yes.
But yeah, the not reading the email and not expecting 60 nude people, I imagine was quite shocking.
Yes. Like, hi, all of you. Like,
it's like the reverse of the like nightmare people have, isn't it? That they're naked on stage.
Right.
You were the odd one out because you were clothed. Like, come on now.
Yeah. I was like, this is the first dream I'm having where I'm imagining you guys with the clothes on.
So, over here in the UK, we're having a bit of a folk Me Too moment, which is really, really important for the scene, and kind of just talking about how many industries are sort of have these dark sides, patriarchal sides that we don't need, and that are impeding fantastic, talented female or female identifying artists from, you know, really feeling safe enough to share their talent. And in honor of that moment, I wanted to ask you a question, and you feel free to take this in any direction you want, just about your experiences of misogyny, or even just like your funniest like mansplaining moment from some dude at a gig, or, you know, just obviously we've talked about being mothers in music and people that run businesses and all that kind of stuff, so, you know, I just wondered if you had any reflections on that.
Yes, I certainly do. And I'll try and just keep the anecdotes brief. Mostly I've had a pretty good time. I think it's mostly because I'm pretty arrogant. So I'm just like, nah, I don't care what you think. I don't care what you say. I'm here and you can just take it. So often I don't notice because I'm being very up myself. but like I'm just, or bossy, or whatever the terms are that we've been told that that's what that is. But I'm just most of the time just getting the shit done, and it's fine. However, there's definitely times like I played this show, and I remember this man coming up and telling me about my guitar, like about the model and stuff, and then he goes, "You play pretty good. You play pretty good for a girl." And I was like, "Well, there's the door, and you could just walk right at it." I actually just laughed in his face, and I was like, "Do you realize what you just said?" And he was just like, he's like, "Yeah, oh no, but I mean, like I was like, "You just had to say you're pretty good, like." Or not say it at all. But yeah, there's been loads, of course, of like people assuming I'm one of the band members' girlfriends, and I'm like, nope, this is my show. And they're like, "Oh, so can you tell me where your manager is and who do I invoice?" And I'm like, "You can talk to me right here." Like, you just gotta
into the office,
sass it up. Yeah, right here. Well, I punch your head. Nah, it's generally pretty good. I was pulled off a really big gig once because there were too many girls on the bill. That's probably my most like, and it was booked by someone, and I was gonna make like a pretty big fuss about it, but I actually used it in a different way later. But yeah, there's been multiple. You can't really hide away from it, I think, especially because I also am quite into the country scene as well, and typically it's generally pretty good in Australia. Australia's fairly fair, with their radio and all of that. It's nothing like America, but
yeah, and I think it's important to reflect that often it is just a few people that are kind of obviously it isn't the experience we're having all the time is like always super super positive, or we wouldn't do what we would do. But it's just as we're taking some time in the UK to actually say like, hey, even artists that you perceive are as being like super fierce and wouldn't take that shizzle still have to put up with it. Even if they don't take it, they still have to hear it. And obviously we don't want that anymore, so we're like uniting ladies.
I think a lot of us actually even, it's so part of the makeup of what we do that, like I even said, sometimes I probably don't even notice it and I plow in anyway, but I've put up with so much of it. We all just like take it on without even acknowledging it sometimes, or even realizing that it's just so intertwined in how we like work and create and communicate, and know that we have to do it a certain different way because we have to get around XYZ at that gatekeeper, because that you're not in that boys club, so that's not going to work. And like there's a lot of things that we're constantly juggling and thinking about that probably don't even give ourselves enough credit for. But yes, it is definitely time that we pulled that shit up.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And we will, and we are, just by being and rocking it. So I'm gonna finish up the interview with a quick fire round of fun questions. I'm just gonna throw them out there. You just shout out an answer. Don't even think about it. Yeah, it definitely needs a theme tune of its own. Maybe I'll try and do that in time for this week. Quick fire with Fanny.
No pressure.
Pardon?
No pressure. We just make one up now. Go. You go.
Go.
Quick
Sweet
fire.
Or sour? Oh. Oh, right. Okay.
One, two. This is the start of it. This is just us yelling. Like, Quick fire.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
All right, I'm ready.
Oh, God. It's all gone brilliantly messy, and that I'm kind of live for that. I live for the mess in life.
Oh, that me too. Chaos. High five.
Oh, I felt that all the thousands of miles away. Thank you.
All right.
Right.
I'm ready for your questions.
Fire with Fanny and Lucy. Sweet or sour?
Sour.
CDs or vinyl?
Vinyl.
Night in or night out?
Oh, right now, night out, but mostly night in. COVID's chucked me.
Oh, live music or recorded music?
Oh, live. Live.
Kangaroos or koala bears?
Kangaroos.
Oh, cute.
Fun.
The Beatles or the Stones?
Beatles.
That is the right answer. Well done. Morning, morning person or night owl?
Used to be a morning person, married down, now I'm a night owl.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time today, Fanny. It's been awesome to chat to you and dance with you and, you know, create a theme tune with you. And we wish you all of the best of luck with Fallow, and people can make sure that they follow you on social media to see what's happening on your feature week. But thank you so much for joining me for a brew today.
Cheers. Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure, and I cannot wait to get over there in person, and then we can high five in real life.
That'd be amazing. Take care, Fanny.
Bye.